Let me bring in North Carolina Republican Congressman Mark Harris. Congressman, good morning to you, sir. Let me ask you about this landmark bipartisan housing bill in just a moment. But first, I got to ask you about today's top story. That is Israel reportedly sharing intelligence with the White House about this alleged Iranian plot to kill the president. How alarmed are you by this, and have you been briefed?
Well, I am. Marky, first of all, thank you for having me, and it's an honor to be with you. I honestly am concerned, as I think all Americans should be concerned. And again, it shows us once again what we're dealing with over here in this Iranian regime. There's no question. I mean, we all see the pictures. You saw everything that was happening at the funeral of the Ayatollah, and all of the signs that were posted were about killing President Trump. He is, no question, number one on their hit list. He's aware of it. He actually spoke about it a little bit in his press conference there at the NATO meeting. Yeah. And so it is something that I think we need to be concerned about. We need to be alert to what's happening, not only with the president being a number one target, but also being aware of what's going on around us here in our own homeland and the danger that that these folks present.
The thing that I keep thinking about, though, it's interesting, this intelligence came from Israeli officials. How did a legitimate threat against the president of the United States not get flagged by our own national intelligence apparatus and our own people here at home, sir?
Well, I think that's a good question. And I think that, again, so many times we get our first tips from folks over there in the Middle East and our own intelligence that work very closely with Israeli intelligence. I mean, I think if you go back all the way to February 28th, it was Israeli intelligence and American intelligence working together that recognized that all of the leaders of Iran were going to be in the same place at the same time and allowed us to take out the entire top layer of leaders there. So I think the whole intelligence community has a life of its own, and I think that Israeli intelligence has always tended to be extremely valuable and extremely accurate. And so I think that working together, you have to get to the root of the problem and find out where the information is.
Well, we'll see what more we learn today and this weekend. Let me switch gears now back to the housing market and the landmark housing bill that is set to become law later today. Congressman, you and I have talked about this before. I know that you opposed this bill when it passed after pledging to vote down any Senate bill that didn't include the SAVE Act. Just to remind people at home who are tuning in, why are you willing to sacrifice that sort of bipartisan housing bill that's so wildly popular with Americans in the name of an election security bill that is unlikely to be passed?
Well, I think it's very important for us to understand the bill that passed the House, I was supportive of. When we passed it out of the House, it went over to the Senate. Some of the best things that were in it from the House got stripped out. There were many of Elizabeth Warren's priorities and things that she wanted in there that were different. And so when it came back, I had genuine concerns about it, not the least of which to mention, as you alluded to, that it didn't have the Save America Act attached to it. And the president, of course, recognized that and sees that it's a priority. Are there things in this bill that are good? Absolutely. There's a lot of work that went into it. But there are also some things that were concerning to me, including some things that it didn't do, like stopping foreign countries, foreign adversaries from being able to buy up land and buy up property here in our country. That was a concern to me. Also, didn't go as far as I would like for it to have gone in cutting the red tape. Your earlier report talked about the supply issue. So much of the expense of housing are found in so many of the regulations that are required and placed on many of our home builders. And so I think that there's more that we can do about rolling back some of the red tape. There's more that we can do to be successful at it. Now, President Trump, obviously, has made it clear. He said on Wednesday, he said, it's not that I dislike the bill. What he dislikes is the fact that it doesn't have folks voting for the Save America Act.
He wants other
and
wish
allowing
list
people
items
to be registered. So
signed
that is
first.
tied together.
Well, he still hasn't signed this bill, of course. It'll become law today unless he vetoes it. Is there any chance at all that he kills this bill at the last second?
I would be surprised, quite frankly, that he would do that. But I don't know. I'm certainly not going to get ahead of the president here. But again, as I said on Wednesday, he said it wasn't that he disliked the bill. There are good things in this bill, and I think it's important, and all of us understand the rising cost, the 1.8% increase we've seen between June of last year and June of this year in the cost of housing. I just need to make sure that we're targeting the right things when we're trying to increase the supply and see the prices begin to stabilize.
Yeah, because the American dream is out of reach for so many people right now. Representative Mark Harris, thank you for your time as always, sir, and wishing you a wonderful and safe weekend.
Thank you. Same to you, Marky.
Okay, talk to you soon.